What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Movies That Make You podcast, where movies are more than just entertainment. They're a catalyst for meaningful conversations. I'm Jonathan Sprang, and I go by Sprang. And most weeks we dive into movies to watch in preparation for a new release hitting theaters. But we don't stop there. We talk about the deeper ideas, the life lessons, and the morals that these films have to offer. This week, Scott Raymond and Kevin Raymond are both going to be on to talk John Wick movies and female assassin movies to gear up for, within the John Wick universe, the Ballerina featuring Ana de Armas. We watched 5 female assassin movies plus all the John Wick movies, so we're going to have a lot of fun having that discussion. We hope you'll jump over to our website and see all of our links. It's bio.site/moviesthatmakeyou. There you'll find all of our links to our Instagram, to each podcast stream, whether it's Apple or Spotify. You'll also find our Letterboxd link, which highlights the lists of movies that make you laugh, movies that make you cry, movies that make you scream, and everything in between. Before we dive into this week's episode, though, let's take a look at the next 4 weeks on the Movies That Make You podcast. Next week, it's going to be How to Train Your Dragon. We're going to spend one episode talking about the animated film and looking forward to what we're anticipating about the new live action version. The week after that, the 28 series has a new installment coming out. So we're going to be discussing 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later in preparation for 28 Years Later. The Danny Boyle directed film, Cillian Murphy starred in 28 Days Later, is one of those films that just made a huge impact culturally. So we're excited to rewatch those and have that discussion. The week after that, we're going to discuss 2 racing movies in preparation for F1 starring Brad Pitt. The 2 movies we're going to watch, Ford vs. Ferrari and Gran Turismo. Both of these deal with the Le Mans, not street racing like Fast and Furious. So we're looking forward to having that conversation. The week after that, we're going to be gearing up for Jurassic World Rebirth. In order to get ready for that film, we rewatched the original Jurassic Park, the first Jurassic World, and Jurassic World Dominion, all in preparation to see the new one starring Scarlett Johansson. We like dinosaurs, and we're looking forward to it. Hope those episodes excite you. So without further ado, let's get to the podcast. We are back with another episode of the Movies That Make You podcast. I am Sprang, and I am joined by the Raymond duo, Kevin and Scott. What is up, guys?
How you doing? Oh, good here.
Doing great.
Awesome. I was trying to come up with some sort of like tag team name, but nothing happened. So Raymond Duo is what I got.
This is Everybody Loves Raymonds.
There you go. There you go. Very nice. That's going to be the tagline for the episode. Very cool. Very cool. Well, we are here to talk about some assassination movies, spy type thrillers with female leads. And all this is in preparation for the Ballerina that drops this Friday. It is in the John Wick universe. She actually fights John Wick in the trailer. So that's going to be fun to watch. And so in order to prep for it, we're going to talk through some of the John Wick ideas, some of the films, mainly just kind of the overall world of John Wick. And then we're going to spend most of our time diving into these 5 female assassin, female spy movies that we watched in preparation for this one. But before we do that, let's do what we call mustards. Let's catch up. Kevin, why don't you go first? How are you doing? And what movies have you watched since the last time we talked?
Well, doing great. It's getting the end of the school year, so wife is getting a little calmed down. Son's getting a little calmed down. Life is wonderful. I would be disingenuous if I tried to complain about anything. As far as movies, not many. Honestly, it's actually really good when we do this. You give me something to focus on, and I kind of have homework at that point. Otherwise, it just ends up being TV.
So fill everybody in on what TV you're watching, because you're rewatching a favorite.
I am rewatching Game of Thrones. We recently finished Billions. Right before that, finished Suits. But I'm rewatching Game of Thrones and enjoying it more the second time even than I did the first, and that's saying a lot because I really enjoyed it the first time.
Yeah, I have not watched Suits, but I did watch all of Billions and Game of Thrones, and I think Billions is one of those shows. It's not for everybody, but it's because it's so kind of heady. It's a thinking show. Like you can't just like turn it on and like even like just passingly just watch. You got to like really be focused, and it's in an industry that most people aren't even knowledgeable about. So you have to like kind of deal with that and try and figure out what's going on. But I loved that. Damian, what's his name?
Lewis.
Yeah. Damian Lewis, Paul Giamatti. Incredible.
Absolutely.
Nice. Scott, how about you, buddy?
Well, he tried to say that I'm getting calmer with the end of the school year, but I'm not a teacher, so at my summer is actually very, very busy. To answer your question as you worded it, since the last time we talked, I haven't watched any movie because we talked on Sunday.
Well done. Thank you.
That's fair.
That's a dad joke, though. So
Since the last time I was
You're welcome.
Since the last time I was on the podcast, I watched Thunderbolts. So really liked that. I'm same as him. It's more of a TV thing for me. So last big show that I finished watching was Severance.
okay.
And if you have seen it and want to talk about it, let's do so not in front of him because he hasn't seen it yet.
It's on my list.
It's on my list also, but I went to watch it and it's Apple TV and we don't pay for the Apple TV subscription. So had to put that one to the side until it opens up or until we decide, you know what, it's time to pull the trigger. I know there's a lot of good shows on there, but just haven't pulled the trigger on that one.
Only Severance.
Only Severance.
Only
You don't like the morning show?
No, I understand, but you watched Invincible. We both.
Yeah, we watched Invincible as well.
Okay. Oh yeah. The show, the animated show on Prime.
Love it.
What'd you think, Kevin?
Oh, I love it. I really much more than I thought. I admit I started it because I watched The Boys with him, and he said, "If you like that, you'll like this." And I was like, "It's animated." Yeah, it's animated. Nope, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
really good. I mean the voice actors are really good. Their voices, they're people that you are familiar with, and the storyline is actually really deep.
Yeah, absolutely. So many layers to that show. It gets a lot more deep than I think The Boys does. The Boys, the layers are definitely, there's some character layers there, but I think they do a lot with Invincible that they haven't yet cracked on The Boys. So
yeah, I think The Boys is a little more social political commentary than Invincible.
So for me, speaking of shows that are impactful, I just finished episode 9 of Andor on Sunday. Episode 10 drops tonight. I watched or I listened to a kind of a conversation with the director and then a lot of the cast for kind of preparation for tonight's episode, because kind of similar to like Game of Thrones, episode 9 was like the big one. Lots of stuff happened in episode 9, and I'm sitting there, I'm watching it. Kristen comes in after taking a nap, and I'm like in tears. And I explained it to her, like what was such a big deal, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that's big, you know." And the other piggyback on that is something that Scott and I are going to talk about in a few months, is the animated shows in Star Wars. So Andor, animated Star Wars. I told Kristen, animated Star Wars shows also have that same kind of level, that higher level of stakes and of emotional involvement by the characters. I told Kristen, unfortunately, man, I just wish somebody could like remake the movies, because the story, like the what's going on is so good and so layered, but when it's done in the movie, it's not there. It's not there in the movie. You kind of have to put yourself outside the movie, analyze what's going on, and realize, oh yeah, that is a big deal, because they don't really show you that in the movies as much. So in the animated show, you get a lot more layers to it, and lots of fun. So kind of piggybacking a little bit on the TV shows and the animated. Movie wise, I've been watching movies like nonstop, and it's been amazing. I have my schedule of movies that we have to watch as a family, but also have the schedule of movies that Kristen and I have to watch to kind of gear up for upcoming podcasts. So not lacking for movie watching in this house.
You are a machine.
Yeah. It was a couple weeks ago. I looked at my letterbox and realized I'd watched like 8 movies in 5 days, and I was like, yes, this is good. And that wasn't even calling for a marathon or anything. So
Just
fun stuff. So speaking of marathons, we've kind of, with this episode, we watched 3 of the 5 films that we're going to talk about today, just Saturday. Just kind of overall thoughts. on kind of let's not dive into the stories necessarily, but just overall thoughts on the 5 films. Anybody got anything?
They were much more different than I would have thought. I had not seen all of them before. I had seen, I think, 3 of the 5. But then even rewatching the ones I had seen before, how drastically different they approached it, how drastically different they felt, even though they had a lot of commonalities. There were even a lot of plot points that were very, very similar. But it was still the overall feel of the way the movie was done was completely different, for better or worse in some cases.
Sure. Scott, anything to add on that?
So I'd only seen Black Widow before we watched any of them, and what he said about that they were all done in a different way. I mean, some of them were a lot deeper than others. Some of them were choreographed a little better than others. They were all much more different than expected, and that made me appreciate them all a lot more.
Nice. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as y'all. That was one of the things I walked away from Saturday. Just immediately got in the car, like, wow, that was a lot of fun. Sometimes when you jump into a series or a style of movie or a genre, and we've done it before where we've done a marathon, it's been all the same like series or whatever. And then those, it's kind of like, while it's good and you still walk away going, man, that was really fun to live in that world for 6 or 7 hours. It was also very fun to walk away from this and go, we were in the same world, but completely different planets. If that makes sense, that's kind of what comes to mind for me.
Different directors' views of those worlds.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I think for me, I leaned more into, like, at first I was leaning towards the action beats, because one of the first, Black Widow, Anna have action beats, and Atomic Blonde I knew I'd seen before, but then the other two I'd never seen before. So it was really cool to get those dynamics. So
yeah, honestly, it surprised me. We were talking about this a little bit before the podcast, and it surprised me how I ranked them in how I felt about them. We can talk about that at any point. We don't.
Yeah, I like that. Let's save that for the end. Yeah.
But I'm just going to say that one in particular was very, very low on the list that shocked me.
Yeah.
There's your clickbait clickbait teaser. Number 4 will shock you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. Well, let's jump into John Wick a little bit. I didn't deep dive, like I said, I wasn't going to deep dive on these films as much, but more the world of John Wick. So I just started with the first one, and just kind of got some stats from that. Not stats, but just some of the director and the actors in that one, because it established this world. It established this John Wick universe that have 4 films with John Wick as the lead, and now we have the 5th one coming out, where he's somewhat of a anti-hero, or a kind of the antagonist, at least one of the antagonists in the film, to our main character, Ana de Armas. But I think it's really, really cool, because the director is Chad Stahelski, who played Neo's stunt double, Keanu Reeves' stunt double in the original Matrix trilogy. That's Chad Stahelski. And I remember when the first movie came out, they were talking about, he was a stunt guy. And so it was the first time I heard about this, someone moving from being a stunt coordinator, choreographer, to being a director. And that the action of John Wick and the style of the fighting in John Wick was and even the visuals of John Wick, the way that it's shot, was completely done because the stunt coordinator is now the director, and he's making sure that you see all the movements, all the action, all the fighting, and you aren't getting this kind of Jason Bourne close up, shaky cam action where you don't see any of the moves. You're just seeing blurs of arms and fists, and you know that it probably looks cool, but the camera is so tight and moving that you miss out on that. I think that was one of the big takeaways that kind of leads to why I think John Wick stands apart and stood apart from other action films at the very beginning is because it's from the eyes of a stunt guy. Here's how I shoot. Here's how I would shoot action. And he gets the opportunity and creates an entire universe. So
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that.
So it starred Keanu Reeves, obviously. And then we also, speaking of Game of Thrones, we get a little bit of Theon Greyjoy is in the film as the punk son of a mob boss who likes John's car, likes Mr. Wick's car, and decides that he wants it. And John Wick does not want to have that. So this kid follows him home, kills his dog, and then that sets off an events of this character that he does not reap the benefits of that decision at all. One of y'all take it away. What else do we see in the first John Wick? Like, what's the premise? I kind of set it up, but I don't want to be the only one talking. What do we got?
I was gonna say I haven't seen it often, but as I recall, there's a code. It's almost the assassins are a society unto themselves, and there's very strict, for lack of a better word, moral code, or their own ethics, but it is draconian. It is absolute honor. I find it very interesting that the rest of the world doesn't pay attention to them. Meaning it's like, well, 100 people just died, and it's okay. There's not there's no arrests, no trials, but it's almost a video game-esque feeling.
Yeah. What one of the things that they kill his dog, and he basically, John Wick comes out of retirement. He's been retired to spend time with his wife. His wife dies. The last thing she bought him was this dog, and then this kid kills the dog, and that basically awakens Baba Yaga, as he's affectionately called, the boogeyman. And that just those words and those scenes in the face of that dad when he hears what happened, just that face lets you know he understands what's about to go down, and he doesn't want it to happen. He wants to try and protect his son, but he knows that it's a bad thing that his son
Things have been set in motion.
Yeah. And then kind of was as we did in a previous iteration marathon, we watched the first three kind of in preparation for the fourth one. But each film is somewhat kind of same old. It's somebody's after John Wick, and he's just trying to fight to survive, fight to take down this organization that has now turned on him, things like that. So awesome action, not too much as far as story goes, but it's kind of a guy's action film. As we've talked about previously, not on the podcast, but just in person. Keanu Reeves has now put the price tag of his paycheck on how many words. Each word is $150,000, I think it is. And so he's trying to basically say, the more you make me talk, the more you have to pay me, because he understands the nostalgia or the gimmick or the essence of what these movies should be. They're just action films. Let them just speak with their fists, and we know what's going on. We know what the characters are against each other and all that stuff. So I always found that was funny. Scott, what are some other things that you found unique and interesting about the John Wick universe? Because it's like the way that they introduce all these different aspects of the world I thought was really unique. Do you remember?
Well, the movie really just shows that everyone grieves in their own way, and don't mess with a man's dog or his car or the memory of his wife or his job or I don't remember every sequence, but the introduction of the hotel.
Their world ends outside the hotel. No business is done in the hotel. No activities.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is like he shows up.
Base.
Yeah, it's home. Yeah, it's base. Yeah, like in tag, and they have some sort of coin system. They have these coins that only this group of assassins gets, and so that's how they kind of prove they're a part of this organization. I think of like Q, like in Bond, we get that sort of of an organization within this universe as well, where he goes and he has to get suited up.
Yeah, it does have some parallels to the like James Bond, and then the spinoffs from that, the Kingsman and such.
Yeah. So all the suits are bulletproof. They go and they have to get fitted, like kind of like Kingsman. That comes to mind too. I just love that, like introducing the and all the. I think they even said the weapons have unique names too, or whatever. But yeah, so when he has to go on a mission, he goes and gets suited up and gets all the weapons and goes after everybody. So
That's a high society. I mean, it is
yeah,
an elite society, not just in skill but in sophistication.
for sure. Yeah. So they did actually come out with a TV show. I don't know if you ever watched it. I think it was on Peacock. But it was called the what's the name of the hotel?
Continental.
Yeah.
Continental. The show is called The Continental. It didn't resonate with me. I really wanted to because it had a little bit different feel than the John Wick movies. I think partly just because they're doing a TV show and they don't have those actors or whatever, but it was interesting, but it wasn't something I was hoping it would be like Sopranos or something like that, or that level of like drama and intrigue. And it was okay. It was decent, but it wasn't as like, impactful to me as some of the other shows. But anyway, just thought I'd mention that. Anything else about the John Wick universe that you guys find interesting?
They carried it on a lot longer than I really thought they were going to be able to after movie one. I mean, I enjoyed movie one, especially when we were having the marathon. It really, I mean, it's probably like the Fast and the Furious series or something. As long as people keep paying money to see it, they'll keep rolling them out.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
did he not die at the end of four? Wasn't he on the fountain steps or something?
I don't even remember. I don't remember.
He was shot, went to the ground, reached up, shot his own gun, and then yeah, like walked over to the fountain, and then the camera just cut to the sunset.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if this timeline wise, if he did die in the fourth one, then this one obviously is somewhere before that in timeline. But we did get introduced to the ballerinas. I don't even know what their organization is called, but I think it was in John Wick 2. He has to go get protection from Angelica Houston at this theater, and the ballerinas dancing, and then there's like you can tell that this is more than just a ballerina show. This is something deeper, and it's a part of that universe as well. And we were talking the other day. I thought, as soon as he walked in there, I'm like, yeah, this is the female version of that. Like nobody had to say it at all. It was just like because of the way they'd set up this universe, I felt like, yeah, this seems the most right. And it's interesting too because there's a couple of other um, movies that we'll talk about today that also have like ballerina and dance as a part of their female assassin training as well. So I thought that was interesting too. Angelica Houston was great in that as well. But I'm really interested and really excited to see Ballerina. It's just fun to kind of get into that world again and then to see it from her perspective and what she can do. Anybody remember what her first action sequence was? Anna de Armas. So James Bond, No Time to Die, Daniel Craig. She's in it for like 7 minutes, but she has a drink with him at the bar. They go into this party. All hell breaks loose. She has to fight her way out with him. And I turned to Kristen. I was like, that was her audition. Because I was like, after that, I knew something was going to happen with her. It's kind of like what we're going to talk about in a little bit. It's like somebody trying to get from, okay, I've done all these dramas. How can I spread myself and get some more jobs that are outside of that and show my talents in other areas?
Some are more successful than others.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that was that. And then she was in The Gray Man, what Russo's brothers did. Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans. It was like a Netflix movie, and she was in that fairly closely after Endgame, and they were doing that film. And so that was another action thing where she's somewhat one of the leads. And then when she got cast as this, I was like, yeah, this is exactly right. Makes sense. She's at that point in her career and that point in the kind of her branching out into this action genre. It was right. So I've seen some clips on stuff of them doing their training. I'm going to be posting those on the week, at least on the week that we drop this episode. But man, it's so fun to see her putting herself out there and wanting to be done well, wanting to be perfect. It reminds me a lot of Keanu Reeves in The Matrix, where he wanted every fight scene to be perfect because he wanted to hold it so high. Like, this has to be good because it requires this reverence to the action. So, well, cool. Well, let's jump into the female assassin movies. Why we're here today, gearing up for Ballerina. I was thinking we just go in chronological order. I thought it was interesting when I was looking at these that we had a female assassin movie, at least one. I think there was a couple others in there too, but we had a major female assassin movie dropped 5 years in a row from 2017 to 2021. We've got these female assassin movies, so I thought that was a cool thing to go with. So, Atomic Blonde, 2017, Charlize Theron, James McAvoy, John Goodman, Sophia Boutella, who was in the Kingsman, the first Kingsman movie. That's where she kind of got her breakout role. But I did want to mention David Leitch also was a producer on John Wick, and he directed The Fall Guy, Deadpool 2, Bullet Train, Hobbs and Shaw, and he was also a stunt guy in Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions. So there's this kind of interesting, because you can tell, I think, as we'll talk about the action sequences, you can tell the guy directing this action sequence, he knows what he's doing. So tell us a little bit about Atomic Blonde.
Stylistically, I thought it was very interesting because it, right up front, it's based on a graphic novel, but all of the artwork, all of the lighting, the music, everything was really, you would have get it. In other words, even if you didn't know, they didn't say that right up front, based on the graphic novel, blah, 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 you would still, you got that feeling, which was different than all of the other movies.
Yeah.
It stood completely apart in the ambiance of the movie.
The movie is structured as a retelling. And she's in an interrogation at the very beginning. 80% of the movie happened, 80% of the movie chronologically starts here.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of everything that is happening. Then a twist, major twist at the end.
Yeah, it kind of a double twist, right? Like we think she's working for the bad guys, and then it turns around and she's not, and she's not working for the British government either. It was like this whole thing, they were playing the British government the whole time. So that was cool. Yeah, I did find it very, very fun, and it's similar to Anna, which we'll talk about later, where you have this somewhat, the story is kind of bouncing around in time. You're flowing this way, but then you're getting these flashbacks and say, why this is important is because back here 3 months ago, or back here, and it just keeps doing that, and it's really fun. I really enjoyed that in Atomic Blonde. And you're kind of getting this character shows up on the scene, trying to, it's like the Berlin Wall is about to be torn down. It's in the 80s, which is also similar to a couple of the other films we're going to talk about. But it's like this story is just her trying to solve like what's happening, what happened here, trying to find the knock list, if we can kind of reference a little Mission Impossible, the agent list, that if they have this list, they'll know all of the identities of the agents in UK and America, and the Russians are going to kill them all. So that was kind of the premise of the movie. Turns out that James McAvoy's character is actually one of the bad guys, and they have to take him down.
So appropriate. You should, anytime
Yeah.
I watch a movie with him, I should just think that now,
Yeah.
because with the exception of X-Men, he's
Mhm.
pretty much, he's gonna play the really eccentric, almost off the rails character, and he does it so well.
Absolutely.
So well.
What are some of the fun moments that you can remember, Scott, from the film, from Atomic Blonde in particular, that really stood out to you?
The stair fight scene.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of the continuous shots. I mean, there were a few. I don't remember exactly where they were in the film, but the camera starts rolling and we're going to go through X, Y, and Z. Car chase, the stair sequence.
Those two.
Yeah. Kevin, what about you?
So it more of a general comment, but it really played a role in that one. And I think it's probably more so with the female assassin genre, but the breadth of the chameleon aspect of their character is so much more than you find in a male spy assassin movie. Usually it's catering a little bit to the male audience, I guess. There's usually a bisexual part of it. But it's just that she has to be everything from make this person fall in love with you to make that person to respect you or to convince you. There's just so many more layers, so many more masks that has to be worn. And I think that becomes much even more apparent in a couple of the other ones that we talk about. It really, I don't know, it just, you don't ever know who, not just who they're working for and who's good guy, bad guy, but you don't actually ever really get a good feel for who that person is at the core of that character.
Yeah. I think you get glimpses of it. I think about, but it's not even a big part of the movie. It's like a facial expression. Like that's all you get. You don't get her telling you how she feels or like actually being honest to any of the other characters. It's like those moments. I think even the very first moment we see her, she's taking the ice bath, and you can tell she's distraught and she's in pain. And this is her real self. Like this is her being herself. And we get maybe a glimpse of that when she's talking to the Sophia Botella character at one point where she's like, where Sophia, oh, I can tell you're not lying. He's like, well, I got to work on that. So she let her guard down a little bit. And then as soon as she does, she realizes, oh, I can't do that. And I think you're right. I think the other movies, because we get a little bit of the training montage, or not even a montage, but you get what it takes for this person to become that. In Atomic Blonde, she's already that. She's already the killer assassin. She's already the spy. So we don't get into the kind of like the training.
There were two of them. They actually gave a scorecard earlier in the movie. One was 40 something and one was 70.
I think Ava was one where they had a number, and maybe it was this one too.
No, you're right. The scene I was thinking of was actually Ava.
I think I'm with Scott on like as far as like the centerpiece. Like you open up the comic book and it's the whole huge. It's that stairway scene, and I think I knew it was coming. I the first time I watched it, I don't think I noticed that it was all one continuous shot. I don't want to go too much behind the curtain, but I think there were edits because there were moments where you could see that it was like a stunt person probably did that fall into that table, but then because of the editing and everything, it's seamless. It's seamless the whole way through. And that's just the vision of the director to see all those things and the cinematographer to be able to pace those and to do those shots and to know exactly what we need to do to have this one continuous shot. It was just amazing. One of the standouts for that was just the incredible fight choreography that Charlize Theron had to do to get prepared for that. I just can't imagine what all she went through in training and all that stuff. It does bring to mind too, for me, we were talking about Ana de Armas's audition for action roles. I would say that Charlize Theron, the one that stands out to me is Aeon Flux, early 2000s, where she that was her first action role. She'd done a lot of dramas. And so she took that role and then has gotten subsequent action roles. Actually, one's dropping on Netflix pretty soon, if it hasn't already. It's like the Old Guard is getting a sequel. So the Old Guard came out in 2020, I think, and it's getting a sequel. So she's got another action movie dropping. If it hasn't already, it's dropping soon. Really cool movie, fun movie. I'm with you, Kevin. I think the vibe of this is just fun. There's no down moments. It's just action and excitement and energy. And one other thing I did want to mention: a lot of reflections in this movie, a lot of mirrors in this movie, where you're seeing the image in two different perspectives. Because I mean, even one of the bed scenes, like there's a mirror on the side wall, and so you could see it happening in two different directions. Even one point in the interview where she's being interviewed by John Goodman, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but the one shot where this happened,
Toby Jones.
Yes, Toby Jones. Yes. The table was so reflective that when the camera angle, it was the only camera angle in the whole time where they're doing the interview where you see it, and each of them, you see each of them twice. And I think it's just kind of visually showing you all these people are not who you think they're all reflections of something else. We're not really seeing what's really going on, you know?
I
So
like that. No, I like that a lot. One other comment about the graphic novel aspect. The artwork in the credits, they're essentially spray painting over a stencil. So you get this this misty thing. All of these movies were violent, and probably 3 of them had lots of blood. But this was very different because the for I don't want to be so graphic, but the blood spatter was spray. It was a fine mist, and it really did match that. The visual of the spray painting was in a lot of the gunfire scenes, much more so than some of the others, which there was more arterial spurt or something.
yeah,
Again,
yeah.
so graphic. But my point
Splats. Yeah.
it was not um, a can of spray paint look. It was very
Yeah. For sure.
It all had a common
And I did
feel.
like that too. Like a lot of times when they were doing 3 months earlier or 2 years later or whatever, that was like, or when they're showing the location, it was like, you know, which gave you that effect too. That was really cool. So let's go ahead and rate it. What do you think, Scott? 1 out of 5, and you can do halves, but I kind of limit the boys from doing and 3 and 7/8. You know, like let's keep it to halves if we can.
I'd say a 3.5.
I'd probably. It depends on what the scale is, but
Yeah.
I
Your preference.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just meaning that if the one we would consider the best is at the top of the scale, but if we just are going empirically, I would say about 3.5, maybe 4, but somewhere in between 3.5 and 4.
Appreciate you
Out
guys
the
playing
4
by
decimal places,
yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you guys following the rules like the boys do. That's great. I
3.5.
appreciate. Yeah.
We'll go
I feel like
3.5.
I'm there. No. Well, I think I actually gave this a 4.5. I think just the fun of it, the visuals of it for me put it up there. I think the fight sequences, that's kind of why I kind of put it up there. If I'm thinking, as I was looking at this list of movies, this was the one I was most excited to see again. So that's where it lands for me. But cool. Let's jump on to the next one. Red Sparrow 2018. Francis Lawrence was director of this one, who also directed 4 Hunger Games movies. So we can see where he kind of has where he like definitely connected with Jennifer Lawrence, probably got her involved because he was doing the movie.
Not a bad star to hit your wagon to.
Exactly. His first feature film was Constantine. Here we go. There's our John Wick connection. And then one of his other big ones that came out, I think it was his second, maybe third major release, was I Am Legend. So he has a pretty good resume. Jennifer Lawrence stars, Joel Edgerton also stars, who, as Scott pointed out, we know him from the Star Wars universe a little bit. Who did he play in Star Wars?
He was Owen Lars.
Luke's uncle. The first time we saw him was at the very end of Revenge of the Sith. And then thankfully they got him to come back, even though he's a big star now, for the Obi-Wan series. And we see him play a little bit more fleshed out version of that character. Jeremy Irons is also in this as one of the best characters. Amazing.
Yes.
This film,
fantastic.
I loved it. Yeah. And then I put Bill Camp in here. I dropped him on this list because he has acted in a couple of HBO series that I like. One of them was The Outsiders, which if you haven't watched it, it's a 1-season miniseries, 8 episodes based off a Stephen King novel. Really good. He plays a detective in that one too. So I thought that was interesting that he's playing the same kind of role here. And I think he's been in a couple other HBO series. But then another connection to shows we like is, I don't remember the lady's name, but she played the assistant district attorney in Billions. And she plays the head of this kind of group that's got Joel Edgerton going undercover or going back into the fold. So one other comment I did want to make, since we didn't do fight choreographer on this one, there wasn't as much fighting, but the dance choreographer was Justin Peck, and Jennifer Lawrence did train and perform that 6-minute opening dance sequence herself.
That was actually her. That was not a double. I
Exactly.
remember when we watched it thinking that it was very well done, that whoever it was, yeah, that was seamless in what they did. No, there's a reason, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
impressive.
I agree.
I find her impressive. I think she embraces the roles that she's in.
Yeah. Do you know that her first film, you remember what her first film was?
Was it not Hunger Games?
No, it wasn't actually. She was like 16 or 17. She won an Oscar for a movie called Winter's Bone. He plays her and her. It's basically a 2 or 3 person movie, and she's living her dad's an abuser and stuff like that, but she won an Oscar for it. So that's when I kind of heard of her the first time, and then she went on and kind of became a big movie star. Hunger Games. I think she got tired of the Mystique character pretty quickly in the X-Men universe, but she still came back every time. She just wasn't as enthusiastic, I guess, about maybe it was the paint. I don't know.
I think she said it took 9 hours or something.
For first class, it took 8 or 9 hours, but then by Apocalypse, all they did was paint her blue and put like 3 things on her forehead.
Right. Scott, what's some of your thoughts on Red Sparrow? What did you like about it? What's kind of the things that stood out to you?
The thing that stood out the most compared to the rest of the movies is she wasn't an assassin from the beginning. Her life wasn't molded around the idea of her being an assassin. Now, we don't know with Atomic Blonde, I guess. I mean, I didn't read the graphic novels.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Black Widow was a child brought into the Red Room. Ava had terrible upbringing, went into the military, an addict, turned into an assassin because Anna didn't really have a...
Well, she lost. Remember, this was a fresh start for her life also.
But in Red Sparrow, she was a ballerina. She was living what seemed to be a pretty nice life. And it all just went away.
That one more than the others. The mystique of Russia. I didn't do anything there, but it was in the but I mean, yes, exactly. You know how the depth. No. But the mystique of Russia and the state and the power they have and the absolute control over everything that goes on in their society. That one, Anna to an extent, but Red Sparrow, the desperation, the inevitability or the futility of having no choices, especially since it was her own uncle that kind of sold her into that. Very, very rough, very, very disturbing.
Yeah. She and even her mom mentions it in the one point in the movie where she knew the way that he looked at her when she was younger was not good, and so she was very scared for her daughter. But her daughter felt like, this is the only option I have. I can't dance anymore. My mom needs help. I don't have the funds to do that. I don't have a job. This is my only option. And come to find out, I'm really good at it. I'm really good at like living this life and playing this life, reading people. I thought that was a really interesting standout of this one. Is it was a lot less action, but way more into the head games of spydom, and the way that she was trying to put herself in front of the Joel's character and trying to have these meet cutes and that are supposed to seem like they're by accident, but he figured it out, the day before. I thought that was really great. But I think the thing for me too in this one is there wasn't necessarily I was surprised that she opened up to him so quickly. I'll say that. I was surprised that she was confessing who she was in their first interaction when they went back to his apartment. He asked a question pretty poignantly, she turns the music up and tells him the whole thing. And I was like, is she playing a long game? Is she playing a double thing here? You know, is she trying to blackmail? Like, is she being what she's telling her Russian agents, or is she actually being, you know, kind of going to the other side, defecting? And it was just that tension was there for the majority of the movie. And I think it went well for herself, her character, because she was able to get back out in the field because she tricked the Russians into, oh no, I'm going to get them on my side even more now. All that stuff. And then even at the end when they're torturing the dude, man, that was just intense. Now, I believed that she was doing it on purpose at that point. I had gotten to the point where I felt like she was really on kind of the defecting side. She was trying to get out of Russia. But the fact that she had to go that far with it, I thought that was just really intense. And other than the other movies, it showed a really depth of what someone in this type of position what type of decisions they have to make is just bonkers.
And how much of it was planned, playing a long game, or how much of it was that was not really her identity. She didn't want to do that. So she the entire time was always looking for, at this moment, at this exact moment, what is my best option? And then the looking like playing back and forth, maybe it was in this moment I need to be this. And the genius, her genius was convincing the people in the transition from one moment to another that there was a reason for the moving from one to the other, but she didn't have this plan to go here when she started here. It was, all right, I'm going to do this, and then the next circumstance is, crap, I got to go over here. But the genius is to understand how to be believable with what she was doing.
Yeah, I totally, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't think this one did necessarily great in the theaters. I think I can understand maybe some of the critiques of her acting in it because she's so stoic the whole time. That could be perceived as being bad acting or maybe not as believable acting. But I think when we were watching it, I felt like that was just the character more than it was her acting. She was
Cold War Russia.
Yeah.
This is a U.S. film, and that stereotype is what we all thought.
Yeah.
So you hadn't seen Red Sparrow before this?
Right. Yeah. That's my first time. And I do think the one scene that stands out to me was the skinning scene as being this. That's, I mean, it's the culmination of the story. It's the culmination of their relationship. And is she going to be able to get out of this situation? And I was not expecting it to go the way that it went. I was not expecting her to be able to, like you said, jump lines that fast without the other guy recognizing that she was switching sides again. And I just thought that was just, she made that torturer believe that she was down for what he's about to do to this guy. So much so that he just like left her to just like, yeah, you go ahead and do it. Let me come over here and get this other knife. They're like, oh, just kidding. You know, that was such a really cool, because it happened so fast, and that change in her face and that change in her demeanor. And she's like, all right, good. You got him. Let's do this. And just like, what's happening? You know? So that was good. Any other stands out for you, Scott? Any other moments that stood out to you about the movie?
I was going to mention that one, what you just said.
Yeah, my bad.
The character twist, figuring out who this whole thing was about was that was something. I'm assuming you didn't see that coming.
I think it wasn't until they landed the plane and he's stepping off. I'm like, I bet that's not Jeremy Irons' character. And I thought that character was such a great twist on the whole thing too, that this whole time it's been one of the superior Russian officers that's been the deep throat for the Americans. And he's confessing to her and saying, hey, you're going to be the hero if you turn me over, and then they're going to kill me, and then you can be the hero. And she found another way to kill two birds with one stone and keep his cover intact. It was just like, that was great. Well, let's rate it. Red Sparrow. Kevin, why don't you go first, then I'll go, then Scott.
So I whether it be 3.5 or 4, I had it and Atomic Blonde the same.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I would go 4 on this one as well.
Same. 4.0.
There you go. All right. The hat trick, bro. The hat trick. All right. Next up, Anna, 2019. This is directed by Luc Besson, who he is famous for, most famous for being the director and the writer of The Fifth Element. He also directed Leon with Natalie Portman when she was a younger lady, and it was I can't remember the guy's name. Leon's character. He was,
but I can't.
yeah,
I don't know.
he was in the first Mission Impossible movie. That's where I kind of first saw him, and then Leon later. But that was a really cute movie too. I think it's just the assassin that has to raise a child. Just really interesting story, dynamic. Also starred Gary Oldman, who was also in Fifth Element. So anyway, Lucy, which was about Scarlett Johansson opening up all of her brain and using all of her brain and becoming an expert at all things. And then I think his first breakout film was La Femme Nikita back in the 80s. This one starred Sasha Luce, which I looked at her filmography. It's like 4 films. Helen Mirren, of course, an amazing actress, and Luke Evans, who's also a great actor. Not necessarily on the same level as Helen Mirren, but he did a really good job in this film, in my opinion.
It's Cillian Murphy, right?
Yes. Good call. I forgot that one. Yep. Cillian Murphy. Do you mind kind of taking like the story?
It's another one of the movies that had the most backstory, the most see where they come from and how they ended up where they are. She was disadvantaged. She was an addict. She was destitute. She was treated very poorly by her boyfriend, I assume, for lack of a better word. Violent, kept her drugged, and she was abused. And then eventually, she was trying to get out of it, and her father was in the Navy. So she tried to she filled out. We never saw that she actually submitted it, but we heard later. But she filled out a Navy application, and it was kind of an afterthought at the time. We didn't hear much of it, and her boyfriend made fun of her about it. And then all hell breaks loose one night, and when she makes it back home, there's someone waiting for her to either go ahead and kill her or take her under his wing and give her a chance to start over and join this other society or other part of life.
Yeah.
So I'll hand the baton over then to someone.
I watched this movie late at night, so it's a little fuzzy. So he picks her up to take her under his wing. She becomes a model, and then like the callback to what you said before about the costumes being able to change how you look. I mean, it's not something that we see with male actors being able to pull off to the same extent, because she is blonde and then has a body double and then puts on black hair, brown hair, doesn't really matter. Puts on a wig, changes her entire appearance to escape, and then she wants to break free from this life, so she puts together this whole story with a big twist, and then a like kind of double twist, and she's now bald.
I think the sexuality aspect of the female assassin, and probably part of that is how they would disarm men, right? But she's a model, high fashion model as her
Cover.
as her cover.
Yeah.
And I mean, her being able to become a model was somewhat legit. That was not staged. It was you're going to be what they're looking for, be in the right place at the right time, and things will That'll open the door. I do think that it probably had one of the most shocking moments to me of any of the movies that we watched, because it was very dramatic for the first, I don't know, 30 minutes. It was very deep. It not plodding, but you didn't see where the movie was going when you were going through her backstory. It was kind of disturbing. Then she ends up at this school, kind of a la Red Sparrow, very, very similar. And she's there for a month, and then she's given a job. And the job seems straightforward enough. And I've used this talking to both of you about it, but it went from drama to Kill Bill, just like that in one scene. It was, that fight scene was one of the more excellent choreographed fight scenes I've ever seen. And you did not see that coming. There was nothing about this movie up to that point that made you think this was going to be that kind of a movie. But not knowing her before this movie as an actress, I think really helped, because I had no idea what to expect. And then after that scene, the movie had an entirely different tone, and she was really, really good.
Yeah, I agree. I think I was surprised by her acting as well as she did. And I think part of that came from that scene, the action moments. She was so believable. Even the way that the comfortable way that she cocked the gun, like held the guns kind of sideways and went around corners. And it just felt so natural. It was like she was just a really assassin that we just got to see in real life. That's how comfortable she looked doing those action scenes. Lots of good hand-to-hand combat, but also even the gunfights were really good. I really liked the kind of the double twists, and the this one was another one like Atomic Blonde that bounced around. And in this one, though, you get a lot of like, hey, you saw this scene from this perspective before. Here's what happened 5 minutes before that, and we're going to do that. Or here was that conversation. You missed this back half, and so you get a lot of kind of the same scene a couple times in the film. But it shows you the different layers and the different, similar to Red Sparrow, how she has to switch sides back and forth, and how she has to try to find a way of being in complete control and have full autonomy to make her decisions and get herself out of this. Only reason she committed to this life was that she was promised 5 years. And then when she saw that was done, it's like, all right, well, I'm going to find another path. Gets connected with Cillian Murphy on the CIA side, ends up being a double agent for a while. And then by the end of the movie, she basically tricks both sides, gets Mama, Helen Mirren, to help her get out of the life, and tricks both agencies at the very end. I thought that scene where they're getting coffee, and I'm like, Cillian Murphy sits down and the camera shows you who else is sitting there. I was like, oh, this is so great. This is so amazing. Because I didn't see that coming at all. I didn't see it coming.
I did not either. It was so good.
For a split second, I thought he had set up the call and had somehow tricked Cillian Murphy into coming to being as Anna. That's what I thought for that split second, that he was just on camera. And then he immediately said, uh-oh, do you see who else is here? And then it was like, oh, he's gotten tricked too. And then she comes over, kisses him, walks him over to Cillian, kisses Cillian, sits down and says, hey guys, we're going to have a talk. Like, I want out of this. What are you going to do to let me get out of this? So good. I think this one for me was the most surprising for me. I thought this was going to be really low. I thought it was going to be a throwaway movie. Ended up really, really enjoying it. So
it was my favorite of the 5.
Was it really? That's amazing.
Mine too.
Very cool. Any other final thoughts for Anna? Favorite moments, favorite scenes?
Well, I mean, the restaurant, her first 5-minute test, and then the last scene where they're in the park. The choreography of the ruse, the drama of that conversation. I mean, because she had such a history with both of them, there was a lot of, for lack of a better word, sexual tension. I mean, the interpersonal tension was, I mean, you had the jealousy from the two guys. It was very well done. But I think you said this at the beginning, but Helen Mirren, in anything she does, he, she is a force of nature in any movie or show I've seen her in that I can remember.
Absolutely. And I really like Luke Evans and Cillian Murphy. I thought that some of the other side characters were definitely lower on the totem pole as far as actors go. A couple of those scenes, I was like, I wonder what Cillian thinks after filming that scene with those two guys, because that was really not great acting, you know. But he's like Oppenheimer. I'm just come down here and slum it with these two blokes for a little bit, you know. But anyway, all right, let's go ahead and rate it. What do we got, Anna?
Your turn.
I have a 4.5.
I have a 4.5 or a 5. I guess probably 4.5.
Nice.
But it was definitely my favorite.
Nice. I think I've got it at 4 when I rated it earlier. You guys might be changing my mind though. I really liked it, but it's good stuff. Cool. All right, 2 more to go. Ava 2020, directed by Tate Taylor, starring Jessica Chastain, John Malkovich, Common, Gina Davis, as well as some others. This director is also worked on, he was the director for Ma, which was an Octavia Spencer horror film where she tricks teens into coming and having parties at her house so that she can make them like her. And then when they don't, she wants to kill them. Girl on the Train, Emily Blunt plays a lady that's on a train. I haven't watched that one, but something happened. Also, so those are 2 different spectrums. Get On Up, biopic about James Brown starring Chadwick Boseman, and then The Help, starring a host of others that got a lot of buzz that year. So this director has definitely got a nice broad kind of palette that he's worked with. Where does it fall, Scott? What do you think?
Jessica Chastain is not an action movie actress.
Yes.
She does not have the portfolio to transfer the way that Ana de Armas does. Movie-wise, I mean, it did the same thing of the different wigs and appealing to the room, the situation that you're in, being able to know what tools are necessary when she's escaping from the hotel room. Her backstory, I think, was probably tied for the most tragic, if not the most. I don't know. It's hard to weigh childhood trauma and being like essentially an orphan your entire life. I never was one.
Mm.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
But being an addict and then joining the military and coming out of that and then living a secret life from your family, which puts a wedge between you and them. Like that is rough.
If it had been cast with someone else, and by the way, I really like Jessica Chastain in a lot of things. This is not about her in general, but in this role, had it been all drama and no fight scenes, I'd have probably liked the movie a lot more because I liked Gina Davis's acting of her role. John Malkovich is John Malkovich. I mean, he was absolutely just fine.
I forgot Colin Farrell too.
Yeah.
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell, he was okay. To me, maybe it was supposed to be his acting or his role. Maybe his character is a little bit cheesy. So to me, that was I love him, but that was not a strong point of the movie to me necessarily. But the storyline, the interplay between the characters on paper, and the scenes themselves in the script, not on the screen, but in the script, I think I might have really enjoyed the movie if it was done a little differently. I did very much like the aspect that this assassin had a conscience. She had a moral compass. She was trying to justify to herself, what did they do? Are the that I can get my head around this and I can get behind it if I know what you did, which is not that caused friction, of course, with her higher ups. But
yeah, I think so. The other one that stands out to me about this one is it has nothing to do with governments, it's completely this kind of side or this dark organization. It's just these guys are just a part of this organization. I guess similar to John Wick, right? And the Ballerina is just this shadow organization that's just hired by people, probably hired by governments, hired by someone that's got the funds to pay to have someone murdered. They've got to have a lot of money. Either that's, you know, moguls, or they're or it is a government hiring the shadow agency, so they don't have to put their, you know, soldiers or name on the line. But it is interesting because it's more this, where the other ones are very clearly governments, and most of them, except for this one, Russia and America, against each other. And in this one, it's more of a kind of a mobster, or a, like I said, a shadow organization. I'm with you. I think I really like, kind of thinking back on it, I liked some of the hand-to-hand combat in this one. As far as I thought that the Colin Farrell and John Malkovich fight was well choreographed. While you can tell that, like, well, it's John Malkovich, he's old. I felt the way that they shot it, the way that they made it work, it was believable that he was kind of getting the upper hand at times, and it was gruesome. I mean, Colin Farrell, like when he slit his leg and then slit up his entire back with the knife, I was like, oh my, I was not expecting any of that. So kudos to that director, for, because, you know, he didn't do that in The Help, right? He didn't learn that from Girl on the Train, but he probably hired someone that he trusted to help him bring the story to life. And kudos, because I felt like some of those, the combat in this one wasn't as spectacular as Anna or Atomic Blonde. Those were like definitely like full on, just choreographed martial arts centric gun scenes. The combat in this one was a lot more hand to hand, close up. Even the fight at the end with Colin Farrell and Jessica Chastain, which somehow Jessica Chastain won, or at least there was a draw. Yeah, not sure how that happened. But I think we can chalk this up to trying to, you know, Jessica Chastain obviously wanted to try and see, hey, is this in my wheelhouse? And got to give her props for trying, and branching out a little bit. I like her more in things like Molly's Game,
Yes.
and Zero Dark 30. She's spectacular in both of those films. So she's got the acting chops, and I think this was just a chance to try and see, like, hey, do I have a future here in this type of movie? And we haven't seen her do anything else except for that one that was like a female action group, but I think that was a one-off as well.
Who choreographed that she should run that?
I think they said, yeah, you're just going to run from here to here. And the first day they're like, no, we didn't ask if she could run, you know. unfortunate, but you know, some people just don't have that type of physicality, you know. She could have run for years, and if she, you know, just didn't have that right look to it for the film. I thought the family dynamics were solid, very believable, even with Common in there as the former lover, now brother-in-law. I thought that when she said, let's run away, like, I thought that was all believable. The fact that he kissed her and then like stepped away, it was like, that's really how that stuff would go down. You get caught up in the moment and then go, nope, I can't do this, you know. I mean, I thought all of that was really well done. I think that her character went through a journey, and I think that was all, like, again, the drama points, right? The drama of the thing was very believable. I felt like the story did a good job of telling us and why there's all this tension between their family, like leaving in 8 years. We didn't know at first. We just knew there was tension. Then, of course, the film, we get a little bit more of that and the why behind it. Solid from a story, like you said, Kevin, from a story perspective, all the drama, all the acting.
It would make a wonderful book. I honestly believe that would be a great book. I will say I feel better about it having talked through it now. Again, remembering some of the better points that I heard myself say, the points of the movie. So definitely it gained a little on my rating than what I walked out of the movie with, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'll go first this time. I rated a 3. I think the acting and the actors elevate it a little bit from being just, if this was no-name actors, they wouldn't be able to pull it off like this did to a certain extent. So yeah, that's where I land.
I have it as I'll give what I walked out of there with was a 2. And that I felt was generous. I did not like it but having talked through it, and then, you know what? Actually, I was thinking solely of the physicality of her character, the believability of her character. If I step back and look at the movie as a whole, it's probably a 3 is fair, because Gina Davis, that was a very, very believable character. I think we all may have people in our lives that we could identify with the worst parts of that character. Probably the same person, actually, but anyway. And then John Malkovich he's just solid in whatever he's in. It kind of has the same demeanor, very, very solid. Common was good. The sister was fine. Colin Farrell again was not the high point to me, but I'll split the difference and say 2.5.
There you go. Real quick before you go, Scott, I did want to mention, since you brought it up, Gina Davis's that tension between why she accepted the lie of her husband and how that was the turning point for their relationship, to then be at this point 8 years later for her to finally be able to confess, I knew that you were telling the truth. I didn't have another option. And to realize that they were both prisoners. They were both trapped in this lie. I thought that was a really well acted moment. Yeah.
It actually would have been something that if I was reading the book and that scene, I would have probably stood up and, wanted to talk to someone about it right as I read it.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Scott, what do you rate it?
I did the same thing. I had a 2.5. I did bump it up to a 3 because there are more characters than Jessica Chastain. Colin Farrell was not what he was in The Penguin. The movie came out before The Penguin, but I think he has had opportunities to grow as an actor. He's always been a good actor, but he has had better projects to apply his skills to. The only thing storyboard wise that I didn't see being super necessary was the gambling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just a little side plot of, oh, you need $80,000. Give me it. Give me 3 days. And then she just had the money. She didn't even go work
Do something.
a job.
Yeah.
I
think it was just another way to build. Yeah, it was a little bit out of left field. I think I'm with you. When I watched it, I think it was just trying to show us he's got a past. He's done stuff that she didn't like when they were together. So it gave a connection point to where she could help him, she could save him, and then, but yeah, it was an added on storyline that the movie may or may not have needed to be successful.
So I will, by the way, one thing on that. Okay, as we already said, there was no governmental involvement here. They're not doing this because she's not doing this because she's being forced to, per se. It's her career. Did either of you find it interesting that they were showing the prices for these murders, and there were about two less zeros than I thought there should be on them? It was $70,000 or $65,000 at the beginning. They were showing her ledger, how much they cost. I don't think either one of you have seen, for example, Day of the Jackal, but that's a paid assassin movie. Eddie Redmayne series. Eddie Redmayne, fantastic. You should watch it. Great book. It was a good movie the first time around, but he makes 15 million per hit or 20 million. I mean, it's a completely different. So it was a little odd to me that it was very specific amounts of money, and they were much, much less than I would have anticipated.
For sure. let's jump forward into the last movie we're going to talk about today, and that is Black Widow 2021, a part of the Marvel Universe. It is a prequel from her death in Endgame. It's a direct sequel to Captain America Civil War, where she goes off on her own and ends up connecting with old acquaintances. Written and directed by Kate Shortland. And the films in her filmography I've never heard of. Lure, Berlin Syndrome, and Somersault were the top ones on her list other than Black Widow. But it starred Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Rachel Weisz, Ray Winstone, Olga Kurylenko, William Hurt, and as a young Yelena, Violet McGraw. And I bring her up because she's in Thunderbolts, but also she was the main lead in Megan, the one about the doll that goes psycho. So she's got another movie coming out as well. But pretty cool.
By the way, I haven't seen it yet, but in Thunderbolts,
Okay.
does she, because the characters obviously are overlapping, is she playing a grown-up character that's a different character, or is it a flashback scene?
It's kind of like a flashback.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Nightmare sequence kind of thing.
Yep.
All right.
And so this one came out in it was trying to come out in 2020. Then COVID hit. Came out in 2021. It was a big deal because it released on Disney Plus and the theaters the same day. Scarlett Johansson had points on the back end as far as part of her contract, which meant that she did not get paid as much for her participation in this movie because the theater earnings were not that much. The box office was not that as much as it would have been if it had not been released. Also, watch it at home. And she did not have that because nobody was anticipating the streaming necessity of COVID. And so in her contract, I think she sued Marvel for that to get some pay from the streaming funds just because she agreed to do this with the anticipation of having enough money on the back end. It's going to make this much in the theater, so I know I'll make this. And then they didn't consult her when they said, no, we're going to release it on both. So she felt she was kind of taken out of that. So that's kind of a side note. Black Widow, we've known about her first from Iron Man 2. That's when she gets introduced in the Marvel Universe. She works for S.H.I.E.L.D. We find her backstory throughout the movies. A little bit of her and Barton, Hawkeye character. They have a past that includes Budapest. We saw it very specifically in Endgame when they had to go and get the Soul Stone together. And then they both were trying to sacrifice themselves for the good of the world and the universe. And then she ends up winning out that fight and sacrifices herself. Then following up that, they come out with Black Widow. I think this is the second or third movie after Endgame, but it's a prequel. Black Widow picks up right at the tail end of Captain America Civil War. They've just had the airport battle where the Avengers were fighting the Avengers. She let Captain America and Winter Soldier leave, and so now she's on the run from S.H.I.E.L.D. or from the government. Thunderbolt Ross is after her at the very beginning of the film, and then she escapes. Ends up being kind of trying to live on her own. She's got a connection with a guy that gets her supplies and stuff. She gets this package, and it has something in it. She doesn't necessarily know what it is. Then she's getting attacked by Taskmaster. She gets away from Taskmaster, goes back to her old apartment in Budapest, and ends up finding out that Yelena is there as well. And so they have a nice little fight. Then they decide they're going to work together. They escape from the agents, and then they're going to go try and figure out how they can rescue all the ladies from the Red Room, because they are all being mind controlled at this point, and it's not their decision to be assassins. They're being mind controlled by what we find out is their fake mother, their undercover mother, who is the scientist of the story. She had developed this chemical that would allow them to control animals and control humans. And so she ends up being the one of the villains in it. And then David Harbour was their dad when they were younger, and now he's in a Russian prison. They go rescue the dad. They go find the mom, and now they're going to go take down the Red Room, which is this floating base in the sky. Ray Winstone is the big bad guy. She ends up being able to infiltrate because she puts on a mask that makes her look like her mom, and her mom puts on a mask that makes her look like Black Widow. And then they go do separate parts of this mission to escape, take down the bad guy, and they take down the Red Room all in one. And then all the widows go with Yelena and David Harbour and Rachel Weisz's character. They escape, and she stays back to be arrested. And then that's where we end with Black Widow before we get to story-wise. She comes back up in Infinity War. So that's my quick rundown of the story from beginning to end.
Well done.
Yeah. Just overall thoughts of the film. Anybody have anything that jumps out?
So one thing, this movie had a lot more comedy, right? There's a lot of comic undertones. It's a different genre of movie. It's part of the Marvel Universe. It doesn't take itself very seriously, whereas all of the other four we watched were more serious in what they were doing. But that one scene in particular, to hear them talk to each other was so incongruous with the fight scene. I mean, it was really two somewhat estranged brothers would come and they would start wrestling, on the floor, and eventually, mom would yell from the other room or something, "Knock it off!" And that's how this felt. Except at any moment, one of them could have died.
Yeah, you're shooting bullets at each other.
But it felt really,
yeah,
and that was not a complaint. That was in a good way. Yeah. Okay, the tongue in cheek conflict that is here. I do think that in my opinion, it did not do this movie a great service to watch it in the genre with the other movies. Because if I were to rate it on its own merits, watching it as part of the Marvel Universe, I would have one rating. Putting it in this category and rating it kind of up against the others, it doesn't rate well by that scale to me. I mean, obviously, I enjoyed it. Who doesn't like the Marvel movies? I mean, it is what it is. Lots of corny humor.
Mm-hmm.
Funny, mostly, but corny.
What do you think, Scott?
A lot of the movie felt rushed. I felt that way when I walked out of the theater. I felt that way watching it again. The CGI could have been a lot better. I know that's everybody's main nitpick with it, is that one scene where Florence Pugh's stabbing into the rotor blade and then it explodes and she's flung back. I mean, the scene looks like she's 4 feet off the ground, and they're on a giant floating
Space station.
Big enough to be a space station, just like barely within orbit. I feel the same way. I'm not going to say my ratings, but if you look at it against the 4 other movies we watched, it gets this rating for this reason. If I look at it with all of the other Marvel movies, it gets actually the same rating, but for different reasons.
For different reasons. Yeah, I when this movie came out, I think we even watched it from home. I enjoyed it. It was one of those things where it definitely wasn't on the same level as phase 1 through 4. I think the whole world is in agreement that was just such a perfect storm of quality that nobody's ever going to repeat that. It seems, for a while at least, but I felt like that watching it again and watching it after seeing Hawkeye and after seeing Thunderbolts, there's this level of fun and energy that I think the movie has in the more quiet moments. I think the action beats aren't as good. It's a little bit too big. Like, I think we're all basically free falling and we're all going to survive this. It just was a little bit too much, too unbelievable, too beyond that. While it might have fit with an Avengers movie, none of these people have superpowers. Like, there's nothing that's actually going to save them except dumb luck or something like that. So that's kind of where I will say Red Guardian does have superpower. He is as strong as Captain America, but even Captain America is a different type of superhero than the Hulk or Spider-Man, or it's just he's strong and he's fast and he can survive anything, but still falling from that height would put him in a bad position physically. And I think I'm with you. Like as far as a spy movie goes, it's not as strong of a spy movie. I think the connective tissue for me, like we mentioned before, and I didn't mention in my my rundown, my synopsis, is that the opening is them as younger girls, as covert Russian spies in America. And it's so touching and so fun and joyous. And then the dad comes in and says, we have to leave. They get in the plane and they're flying away. They land and are immediately taken from each other. And Yelena the whole time, and it even flows into Thunderbolts.
She had no idea.
She had no idea. She was so little, so young. She didn't know that it wasn't for real. She didn't know that they weren't a family. And so she's carrying that. And so she carries it even into Thunderbolts. And she longs for the way it was, at least a little bit. And to, that scene in Black Widow when they're at the table and he's saying that was the worst time of my life. And she's like, and she leaves the table because she's like, you're saying that this thing that I thought was so great and so beautiful was the worst time of your life. And of course he has some jokes to say about that, but you can see his heart behind it. And I think just so you're well, for those going to see Thunderbolts, that's his character still has that same heart and that same humor. He's still just the giddy guy that loves being Russian and loves being a superhero. And at the same time loves his daughter and wants to see her succeed. And so that's some of the strongest moments in Thunderbolts is that relationship that we get in that small scene right before they get attacked by the Red Room agents, where they're conversing about what it means to be father and daughter and all that stuff. So I think there's some good moments in the film. It doesn't rank high as a Marvel movie for me. And I think even as a movie, a part of this genre, doesn't necessarily rank high, but I found it enjoyable. And I found that the character moments were solid. So that's where I land. Any other main kind of favorite moments, favorite scenes that come to mind?
The interplay between Yelena and Natasha, she was the little sister in the whole movie. Poke, 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 poke. And the making fun of the pose, the over and over and over. That was fun. It really was. And it was, Scarlett Johansson in taking the role and reading the script, I'm sure she had to laugh because that was a ongoing internet thing about her anyway.
Yeah. I think the other funny beat with their relationship was her bragging about, this is the first vest I've ever bought myself. Mm-hmm. This is the only thing I've ever bought myself. I really, really like it. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. It's a really good vest. I knew it. Yes. It's got so many pockets, all that. That was the one.
Very little sister.
Yeah. That was the thing that the boys took away when we said, what's something about Yelena that you like? She likes vests. Got it. Cool. Yeah, that was the conversation.
That was the whole point of the movie.
Yeah. Scott, you got any other moments, scenes that stand out?
Not in a super positive way. Taskmaster's a really cool character, and it was kind of wasted. But I wouldn't have wanted Taskmaster written and played out that way in a movie that I would have ranked higher. I think Taskmaster written that way in Infinity War would have brought Infinity War down. So
I got you. Yeah.
I feel like it's not that big of a loss. It's a cool character, but it can live with that movie. We saw it on the big screen.
Yeah. 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 I think I've already said all the kind of the main scenes, the moments I liked with those characters. Was really, really fun. I love he's arm wrestling with all the other inmates, and then the biggest dude on the planet sits down and talks trash about him, and he breaks his arm like it was nothing. Like, that was great. So good. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and finish it out with the rating. Black Widow. What do you think, Kevin?
2 probably. I didn't feel it was a waste of time either time I watched it. The bar for the depth of the movie was set pretty low, and it may have met it.
I think I give it a 3. I had to check my letterbox, but I think that's what my rating is for that one.
I have it right in the middle at a 2.5 for both being a spy movie compared to the others and in the Marvel Universe.
Nice. All right, so let's see if we can do this. My number 5 is Ava.
That is also my number 5.
Mine was Black Widow. It was tied.
Oh, okay.
It was tied with Ava, but Ava went up a half point.
All right, my number 4 is Black Widow.
Same here.
Mine's Ava.
All right, so those two swapped on your list, Scott. My number 3 is Anna, which I think is higher on y'all's list.
Yeah, I 2 and 3, I pretty much had a tie, so I'll call number 3 Red Sparrow.
I had Atomic Blonde.
Okay. My number 2 is Red Sparrow.
2 was Atomic Blonde.
My number 2 was Red Sparrow.
And then my number 1 is Atomic Blonde.
Anna.
Yeah. Very nice. Hey, that's not that bad. Not too far off, you know?
Nope.
Pretty cool. Well, so what are you guys most looking forward to about Ballerina?
Being back in the John Wick universe. Counting how many words Keanu Reeves says.
There you go. So what's the ratio of kills to words? The movies themselves, it's a fun movie and it's made for theaters, in my opinion. It's one of those where the experience is just large. You know, there's a lot of action and it's loud, and so I'm just looking forward to the experience because I don't go to the movies as often as I would like to.
Yeah. I mean, there's a solution for that.
Yeah, there is. I could start going. I could go maybe every other week if I wanted to.
Yeah, you could. Or more, you know? Just put it on the calendar, bro.
If only I had good influences in my life that would, encourage me to do things for myself.
I think for me, it's a combination of John Wick Universe. Love it. Love all the mystique. Love all the mythology of the John Wick Universe. The vibe is cool. But also, I really was impressed with Ana de Armas in that Bond sequence. That fighting sequence was just super solid. And I'm excited for her because this is kind of she's headlining a huge action film. And that's a big step for any actress. And so I'm hoping that it goes well. She looks like she's taking it very seriously in the trailers. It looks like a very serious role for her, and that there's real stakes behind it for her as a character. And I think it's going to come across on the screen. I think because of her acting chops, because of her dramatic chops, and the physicality we saw in No Time to Die. I think it's a perfect combination of having another new female action star, and to put it in the John Wick universe, and she's facing John Wick. That's going to be really interesting to see, and it'll be. It's her movie, so she's going to have to win somehow. But I think they'll have to show that that's believable to all of us because we've seen John Wick destroy hundreds of people, right? So what is it about her that wins, that defeats him? So there's, and since he's already died in the movies, they don't have to protect him as a character moving forward. So it could be that it's a jumping off point for her to be this kind of continuation of that world.
Yeah, I agree. So I didn't interrupt you, but I just for a moment I wanted to bring it back around and finish on a dad joke. I wanted to ask you, who is Hugh Jackson? Is he like a director?
Hugh Jackson? Did I say there was something wrong? Nice. Hugh Jackson. I like it. Well, I thought you were going with Hugh Jackman. I was like, I don't think I said Hugh Jackman anywhere. Did I mispronounce? No, that's great. That's great. The dad joke is there. Fun times, guys. Hey, I appreciate you guys taking the time to be on the podcast and talking over this. And we'll hit you up next time when we got a topic that I think you guys would love. All right?
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right.
Good night.
See y'all later. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, just a reminder, you can check out all of our links at bio.site/moviesthatmakeyou. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. But until next time, keep watching movies.